She found the greenhouse at the third hour past midnight, which told me two things before she said a word. She knew the estate's layout, and she had been watching it long enough to know when I made my last round. I was setting the heating coils for a frost warning when I heard the side door. Not a break-in sound, too deliberate, too careful. I turned with the lamp raised, and she was standing between the tomato frames, one hand pressed flat against her ribs, the other open at her side, showing me it was empty. "I need one night," she said. Her voice was steady in the way voices get when keeping them steady costs something. "I will not damage anything. I will be gone before your morning." Her skin was blue-gray in the lamp's light, the color of deep-water slate, and her eyes caught the warmth and held it, copper-gold, wide, not frightened, measuring me. She wore a plain transit coat, civilian cut, but it had been altered to cover something on her left side, and the alteration was recent and amateur, dark at the hem. I set the lamp down on the potting bench. "Sit," I said, and nodded at the old stool by the seed cabinet. "Let me see the side." She didn't move. "I'm not going to ask you anything," I said. "I'm going to look at the wound, dress it if I can, and then we'll talk about the night." A long pause. Then she crossed to the stool and sat, and I got my kit from the shelf under the bench where I keep it for equipment cuts and the occasional bad fall, and I worked in silence while she breathed carefully and looked at the frost-dark glass above us. It was a puncture, small caliber, in and out clean through the muscle below the lowest rib. Someone had packed it badly with transit gauze, old enough that the bleeding had mostly stopped, new enough that movement was tearing it open again. I repacked it properly, bound it, and didn't ask. "Thank you," she said when I finished. "There's a cot in the back room," I said. "Tool storage. No window, but it's warm. Lock works from the inside." She looked at me for a moment, that measuring look again, slower this time. "You're not going to ask who shot me?" "No." "Or why?" "No." "Most people would." I picked up the used gauze and dropped it in the burned tin. "Most people aren't trying to get the heating coils calibrated before a frost kills 3 months of work," I said. "Back room's through there. I'll be here until 5th hour." She slept. I finished the coils. I did not calm anyone, which was a decision I made without drama and without examining it too hard. A wounded person had asked for one night. That was the whole of it. They came at the 7th hour, when the sky over the transit corridor was the color of old iron, and the frost had settled on the terrace stones. 4 of them, in the dark green coats of the Alm Continuance Recovery Service, which is a title that means exactly nothing to anyone outside the Alm system's internal politics, except that they carry legal documentation for almost anything, and the documentation is always in order. I had seen their insignia once before, on a briefing board at a frontier post, 11 years ago. I remembered what the briefing officer had said about them. They come when someone important is officially dead, and the body hasn't been confirmed. The lead one was tall, triple-jointed at the knee, with a translator collar and a document case under one arm. He stopped at the estate gate and spoke my name with the precise flat affect of someone reading from a file. "Rail Dunn, caretaker, Relay Estate Vorath 7, registered occupant and sole staff." "That's me," I said. "We have a recovery warrant for this property and the surrounding hectares. Biological trace indicators suggest a person of interest passed through this corridor in the last 14 hours. We are authorized to search all structures." I looked at the document case. "Let me see the warrant." He produced it. I read it. I read it again slowly, which I could tell irritated him. The warrant was issued under the Alm Continuance Provision, subsection 9, which covers searches of private property in pursuit of a declared deceased individual. The estate, however, was registered under the Relay Infrastructure Preservation Act, a different jurisdictional code administered by the Transit Corridor Authority, not the Alm system government. 2 different legal systems, one warrant, one property straddling both. I handed it back. This warrant is issued under Alm Continuance jurisdiction, I said. This estate is registered Transit Corridor Authority. You'd need a corridor search order, countersigned by a TCA duty officer, to enter any structure on this property. I don't see a countersignature. A silence. The tall one looked at the document, then at me, then at the document again. We can obtain the countersignature. You can, I agreed. The nearest TCA duty station is at Havern Junction, 40 minutes each way if the corridor's clear. I looked at the sky. Frost lifted about an hour ago. Corridor's probably clear. He looked at me for a long moment. I looked back. I had nothing in my face that he could use. We will return, he said. I'll be here, I said. I watched them walk back to their transport. I watched the transport lift and curve south toward Havern Junction. I went inside and put the kettle on. She was standing in the doorway of the tool room when I came back through. She had heard everything. The door was thin. The morning was quiet, and she had ears that were set slightly higher than a human's and shaped to catch lateral sound. I had noticed that when I dressed the wound. 40 minutes, I said. Probably less if they come ahead. You should know that. She didn't answer immediately. She was looking at me with an expression I didn't have a name for yet, something between assessment and something older, something that had been through a great deal and come out the other side of it still upright. You knew the jurisdiction, she said. That wasn't a guess. Frontier Post, 11 years ago, I said. We had a briefing on Alm Continuance warrants. I remembered the flag. Most people don't remember jurisdictional flags from 11 years ago. Most people don't have a reason to. She came fully into the kitchen and sat at the table, and I poured 2 cups because there was no reason not to. She wrapped both hands around hers, careful of the left side, I noticed, keeping the ribs still, and looked at the table for a moment, and then looked up at me. My name is Saravath Alm, she said. I was the seated queen of the 3rd continuation. My regent declared me dead 14 days ago. He has been thorough. The declaration is in every system record I am aware of. She said it the way you say a thing you have rehearsed, not because it's easy, but because saying it plainly is the only way left to say it. The men who shot me were his. I nodded. I need you to understand what you've done, she said. What it will cost you if they come back with the countersignature. I know what I've done. They'll strip the caretaker registration, the estate lease. I know. Her copper-gold eyes held steady on mine. Why? I thought about it, not because I didn't know, but because I wanted to give her the true answer and not the easy one. Because you asked for one night, I said, and you showed me your hands were empty and someone had shot you and you still said please. I set my cup down. I've been on the frontier side of legal warrants before. I know what they look like when they're being used for hunting instead of justice. I wasn't going to open that door. She was quiet for a long time. Outside, the first transit corridor traffic was beginning to move, and the light coming through the greenhouse glass was turning from iron to the pale gold of early morning, and the frost on the terrace was starting to lift off in slow threads of vapor. There is a secondary residence on Varath Corridor, she said finally. Registered to a trade name, not my name. My household chamberlain, one of them, the one I trust, is there. If I can get to that corridor without being tracked through a transit gate, I can reach him. He can begin the process of contesting the declaration. How far is Varath Corridor? 11 hours by private charter, 6 if the lane is clear. I know a charter operator at Havern Junction, I said. He doesn't ask questions and he files his manifests late. I looked at the window. We've got maybe 30 minutes before that recovery team is back. You need to be off this property before they return, or the jurisdiction argument is moot. She looked at me. You said we. I did. You don't know me. I know enough, I said. Drink your tea. We're leaving in 10 minutes. We made it to the charter dock with 8 minutes to spare, and Sarevith Aln spent those 8 minutes standing in the shadow of the dock office with her hood up, and her hand pressed flat against her ribs, breathing in the controlled way she had learned somewhere, the way that keeps pain manageable when manageable is all you've got. I spoke to Merritt, the charter operator, a Kelvari with a long memory and a longer disregard for official timelines. And he looked at me, and he looked at the figure in the shadow, and he looked at the sky, and he said a number that was 3 times his usual rate, and I said yes without negotiating because we did not have time to negotiate, and he nodded and began the pre-lift sequence. She was beside me when I turned back. "You didn't have to come," she said. "Not accusation, observation." "No. You're going to lose the estate regardless now, whether you come or not." "Probably." "Then why?" I thought about the greenhouse in the dark, the open hands, the pleas she hadn't needed to say. "Because the warrant was wrong," I said, "and you needed someone to know that and act on it, that's all." The dock bay doors opened behind us. Warm air from inside, fuel smell, the deep idyll of Merritt's ship cycling up. Sarevith Aln looked at me for a long moment, that measuring look, but slower now and different. The calculation was gone out of it. What was left was something else entirely. "Among my people," she said, "there is a word, Vetharak. It means the closest translation is asterisk, the one who holds the door open in the dark. It is not a common word. It is used for very few people in a life." She paused. "I have used it twice before, once for my grandmother, once for my chamberlain." I didn't say anything. "I would like to use it again," she said, "if that is acceptable." The ship was ready. The dock was clear. 35 minutes away, a recovery team was discovering a counter-signature problem at Havern Junction that was going to take, I estimated, considerably longer than 40 minutes to resolve. "It's acceptable," I said. She nodded once, a small, precise motion that I suspected was formal in some register I didn't know, and turned toward the ship, and I followed her, and the door closed behind us both. I never did go back for the estate. I didn't need to.